Hi, everyone. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to warn you that there's a lot of swearing throughout this interview. So if you have kids around, you'll want to listen at a later time. Now on with the show. Hello, I'm Christopher Lopez, and this is the StarCraft Observer. The show centered around the real-time strategy game StarCraft and its real stories from the community. We talk to artists, streamers, players, creators about their first encounter with the game and how it's changed their lives. Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the StarCraft Observer, where we gather stories from the community and fellow listeners like yourselves. Protoss. What do you think of when you say Protoss? Some may say it's our toughest matchup, or that it's difficult to play Protoss, or others will say it's underpowered, it's an easy faction to play, and if they wanted to take the meme route, the most popular opinion, Protoss players play like apes. You heard correctly. Apes. As in the animal. As in the gorilla. Chimpanzees. And for those of you who don't know the meme that I'm referring to, here's a clip of Artosis explaining.
Glad you love my stream. But no, I call them apes because have you ever seen the movie Congo?
Not enough minerals.
You know at the end of Congo where they have the laser because they put the fucking crystal in and all the apes just fucking run at them and they just mow down the apes with the fucking laser, man. And the apes are like falling into lava and shit. It's one of the greatest scenes ever, right? That's how my opponents play. They're just like, all right, let's go. Congo's one of the greatest movies ever. You better fucking take that back, guy in the chat. That is one of the fucking classics.
He calls them apes because they are literally chimpanzees with keyboards.
Very true. No, chimps are the smartest apes, so they're not that. These are silverbacks. For sure. Don't insult chimps like that. And honestly, you watch the way some of these Protoss players play, it's like, well, that can't be a human behind there. Certainly not. Congo has 20% Rotten Tomatoes. That's fucked up. That doesn't even make sense. What?
And that's how the term ape Protoss, or Protoss players play like apes, came to be, via Artosis streaming one day and raging against his Protoss player opponent. Well, that's what I like to believe, and if you find out the term started elsewhere, please let me know. Send me a DM, message me, just get a hold of me, send me an email. I would like to know if this originated elsewhere. So why are we even talking about Protoss players being apes? Well, today's guest, a fellow Protoss player, decided to really embrace the meme and use it as inspiration for one of their videos. And as I'm watching this video, in it, you see this gorilla wake up from sleep. The gorilla then gets up to open its fridge, where you can see cans of Hot 6, Korea's famous energy drink. The gorilla grabs a can of Hot 6, then heads over to its microwave, opens it, and inside of it you see Zerg-shaped chicken nuggies, and is then at their messy desk booting up their PC. You then see these bongos land on top of the gorilla's desk. On the left, you see F2, the key to select all your units, and on the right, the capital letter A, the other key to tell all your units to attack. The gorilla then fires up StarCraft 2, selects Protoss as its race to play, and then hits the big orange rank button to play a match. A tip appears above the loading bar saying, remember to hit F2 and then A move, and then begins the montage where the gorilla just dances throughout the video. And if you'd like to see the rest of that, it's linked in the podcast show notes. Heaven SC, or Heaven, is the meme genius behind that video, and who we're speaking with today. Not only was that video he made super impressive and hilarious, but his Twitch streams too, with his overlay stream being heavily Protoss themed and using a lot of 3D assets from the game. This initially gives me the impression that he's done this for a very long time, because rigging 3D assets can be very tedious, especially if you don't know what you're doing, and surely he must do this for work, right? Do you do any of this for work?
No, I just do it for fun. I have done like some production work like relating to like graphic design. What's kind of cool is my dad is a production designer, so like he works on movies and basically his job is to handle all the art, whether it comes from the set or whatever for whatever production they're working on. I've had the opportunity to work on some movies and do like graphic design stuff for him, but I've never done any 3D work. It's just for fun.
So wait, so what do you do for work then?
I work in debt relief, so credit card debt settlement. Are you familiar with that? Have you ever heard of that before?
Okay, before we dive into that, this whole time, I was like, dude, this guy's so good with this visual effects stuff that it seems like he does this for work, dude. I had this whole impression that like for work you're like working on like post production or something, like doing visual effects, and because you're able to like rig all these models like so well. And then when I ask you in Discord too, like in like Uppatree's Discord, like how do I get these models? Like, okay, where do I get these from? Okay, what do I do next? Like, okay, I gotta import it to Blender, and then like you're telling me about the whole skeleton thing. I was like, okay, yeah, obviously this guy is like really good at what he does, and he must do it for work.
No, just do it for fun. Completely self-taught. The first music video that I did, the You Got That F2A, was actually like probably the second thing I ever made in 3D. So I was very happy with how that came out, you know, for like the first big project, because the other thing that I worked on was like just like this little tiny short. So like the fact that I was able to come up and make something that I was that happy with was really cool, because I don't know, I feel like most people's first projects are probably poop.
Dude, no. Like the fact that you're able to take like a meme that everybody talks about and to make it a proper visual thing come to life was one of the most amazing things I've seen. When Heaven told me that he didn't do this for work and that his real job had nothing to do with 3D work or editing, I was in shock and surprised, as you just heard. Because, like I mentioned, not only setting up a 3D model is tedious work, but having to edit, then create a scene from 3D models, animate those 3D models, and edit everything together is a lot of hard work. Not to mention adding the textures to those 3D models, which gets really complicated. And all that passion stems from when he first started playing video games as a kid. Heaven was born and raised in Pasadena, California, where he would get his first gaming device. When did you first start getting into like gaming in general?
Oh, man. Dude, I've been playing video games since I was a little baby boy. Like, I don't know. I think the first thing I ever got was when I was like 7 or 8. Like every other child at that age, I had a Game Boy, and I played Pokemon. I was like obsessed with Pokemon. My first Pokemon game was Pokemon Silver, so I kind of missed the initial hype just due to my age, you know.
Oh, dude, you're a youngling. I got like Pokemon Red when it first came out, dude.
Yeah, dude, I'm a scrub. I'm the next generation, man. But I don't know. I played a lot of Game Boy games growing up. Eventually we had a computer at my house, and I was like super into RuneScape. That was like my favorite thing to do. And my cousin Matthew, he had some PC games at his house, and one of the PC games that he had was StarCraft Brood War. So I kind of found out about StarCraft from him, and I remember like begging my grandparents like, hey, I want this so bad, please get this for me. So they got me Brood War, and dude, it was awesome. I played a lot of that, played a lot of AoE. And eventually my stepdad, he's like, hey, this game has adult content in it. You can't play StarCraft Brood War anymore. So they took it away from me.
No,
I've been playing it for like 3 years, and they're like, no way. So I stopped being able to play for a while, and eventually got back. Probably a couple years before StarCraft 2 came out, which is crazy.
That's insane.
I know, it's parents, man.
I know parents. They're gonna do parental type stuff. As a parent, I can understand where they were coming from.
The damage has already been done, Mom.
I know. Even though he wasn't allowed to play StarCraft for a bit, he still enjoyed the other games he mentioned: RuneScape, Pokemon Silver, and Age of Empires. But eventually, his parents would decide to split, and he would live with his mom in Connecticut. Do you remember when you had to move? Do you remember what that experience was like?
Yeah, dude, that was tough at that age, because I was like 5 years old, and then suddenly I'm not like around my dad or whatever. So that was, you know, kind of a tough period. But I did move to Connecticut, and we were close to my grandparents, and they basically were the ones to raise me, just because my mom was always working and stuff. So that was kind of a tough period in my life.
Did you understand what was happening, or?
No, I don't think so. I was actually kind of at that age acting out a lot and getting into trouble at school and stuff like that, because of just where I was, and, you know, missing my dad and stuff like that. Like, I don't think I really understood why it was happening so much. So it was a tough period.
So wait, you were acting out at school because you're just the frustration of being away from somebody you love, essentially?
Yeah, I would say so. That would be a good way to explain the reasons why I was always, getting into trouble. This was like first or second grade or third grade or fourth grade, like elementary school. But I was throwing like tantrums and shit, But I had a guidance counselor.
Oh,
He
that's
was
good.
cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, he was the man.
What do you remember about this guidance counselor?
I remember his name. He was Mr. Beeswax, which I always thought was funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's such a weird name, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember I don't really remember much about him, except that he gave me some books to read. I used to read, I think he gave me Shel Silverstein, and he also kind of looked like Shel Silverstein. Like he just was this bald guy with a big bushy beard. I think he was kind of chubby at the time. He looked like a motorcycle guy, or like, I don't know, like just not what you would expect for like a guidance counselor, or like someone supposed to be empathetic or whatever. Like not the stereotype is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. But he was a super nice guy.
How's life like growing up in Connecticut?
It's interesting because like I think of it as a small town, but it's really not that small of a town. My hometown. Let me actually Google it.
Population 500.
44,000 people live in my hometown. Yeah, 500. That's what people like. I remember saying that I lived in a small town to somebody, and this guy was like from Missouri or some shit. He was like, I grew up in a town of 1,700 people. Like, okay, okay, I guess I don't live in a small town, but it felt like a small town at the time when you're coming from LA, right? It was kind of like slightly suburban, slightly rural. My hometown was home to lots of like tobacco farms and dairy farms, and that was mainly the thing. I lived right next to a dairy farm growing up, and that was really cool because they had a creamery there. So like half a mile away from my house was ice cream whenever I wanted, and I am a fiend for ice cream. I don't know about you, Nish. I don't have any vices. I don't smoke. I don't drink regularly. But ice cream is like the one thing that I have way too much of. So like,
yeah, dude. If there's a can of root beer and ice cream, I'm done.
Oh my god,
I'm done. It's great to hear little Heaven got the help he needed in school at a young age. Far too often, parents don't realize that major events such as separation can really have big effects on children at a young age. But also, the fact that Heaven lived next to a creamery that makes a bunch of ice cream will go a long way, and correcting one's behavior. But in all seriousness, I'm glad he got the help he needed. Over time, Heaven would become fascinated with the world of animation. Sites like Newgrounds that had a bunch of Flash games had little Heaven hooked, and when high school came around, he began to experiment with animation.
Okay, so I was like 12 or 13 years old. I would make like RuneScape music videos because I don't know. I enjoyed doing it at the time, and I thought they were funny because I was really into RuneScape. So like when I would watch them on YouTube, I'm like, man, that's the funniest shit ever. Which it isn't. I'm like super cringing thinking about it in memories. So I did that for a while, and then I got into World of Warcraft, and my fixation for creating machinimas kind of went over there as well. And I didn't really know what I was doing for the most part, but what was cool is when I was in high school, I went to kind of like it's called a magnet school. I don't really know what the hell that means, but at my high school we had laptops, and what was cool about the laptops is they came with like the full Adobe suite because they had some sort of like deal. So I had access to like Flash and Premiere and a bunch of other programs. So that's where I kind of started experimenting with like video editing and animation and stuff like that. Like I was like, man, I can't believe I forgot to mention this part. Before RuneScape, I was like super into like Newgrounds and like Macromedia Flash and all the like Flash games that were available on there. So I guess that's where I started, and then I got into RuneScape music videos, and then I got into WoW, like machinimas and stuff, and doing like After Effects and video editing. And I watched a lot of like YouTube videos about like filmmaking and stuff like that. Like probably the biggest inspiration ever for me was Corridor Digital. they're like a really old school. I mean, they still put out content. They're pretty big now, but they do like a lot of like VFX stuff. So I would watch them. I'd watch like Freddie Wong, Freddie W, Punisher. Those guys on YouTube I'd watch a lot. They did a lot of like VFX, video game, live action stuff, and that was really cool. So that kind of got me into the whole idea of, at that time in my life, man, I want to kind of learn how to do VFX. This stuff is super cool. So that's what has kind of gotten me at this point to get more into like Blender and 3D animation and learning that. And I didn't go to school for it or anything. I've just been watching like YouTube tutorials and, you know, following guides online to kind of teach myself. And it's probably I would put it as like, it's obviously a challenge to like teach yourself how to use programs like that, but like it's super accessible these days because there's so much information online that you can look up as far as like tutorials, like how do I want to achieve this effect, or how I want to import this model, or how I want to rig the skeleton, and so on and so forth.
And for those of you who don't know what machinima means, it's basically using real-time graphics to create a cinematic production according to Wikipedia. While Heaven enjoyed doing machinima and enjoyed his time growing up in Connecticut, he would eventually graduate and decide to drastically change scenery and head out east. So then you moved to Connecticut, and then you're there until you're like 20, you said?
Yeah, I would say like 21 or 22, around that age. I ended up leaving Connecticut. I quit my job and moved to New York City, and that was definitely a really good experience for me because it was the furthest I'd been from home. And I was living with some friends that came with me, but really it was just one of them, and he was only there sometimes. So I was basically living alone, just because my friend that was there, he would go back to Connecticut every week, and that was a good experience for me at that age. I was working in Midtown Manhattan, and I worked pretty close to Penn Station. It was my first time in like a sales job, and it was completely different from what I had been doing previously. And I don't know, it was just, I have a lot of fun memories thinking about that.
Nice. I mean, so it wasn't for school, it's just like, I need to get out of this place, and New York seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. I just wanted to do something a little bit different. My friend had been talking about, hey, we should go here. So like, fuck it. Kind of, there wasn't really a lot of thought into it. I was just like, okay, I kind of want to change my life. That sounds fun.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you live in a place for so long, you just want to change the scenery. You want like an adventure, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I've dealt with a lot of things in my life, is just by radically changing, which is probably not the greatest thing in the world, but sometimes it feels good.
Sure. Next thing you'll be switching over to Terran, and
No, no shot, buddy.
That'll be really like tough times or something. Like something's really got to change.
Yeah, that's my rock bottom, dude.
Oh man! So, what do you remember about New York?
I mean, it was really cool living in a city where like everything is accessible by walking around, and it's all right there for you. Like, I kind of miss that. Like, I think if I were to ever live in another major city again, I'd want to live in a walk around city, just because living in Houston for a couple of years, you want to go anywhere, it's going to be like a 30-40 minute drive, versus like New York, I want to go get groceries. Well, it's literally a block away. I can just walk out my front door, grab them. So, I mean, it was super convenient. But that's not really the fun part about living in New York. Really, the fun part is just like all the wild shit that you see. I mean, you lived in LA for a very long time. You know what that's like. Just having access. And honestly, it kind of reminded me a lot of going to visit my dad in Santa Monica, like growing up. Like, it just being in a city where you can like walk around, it feels very different. So, obviously I saw my fair bit of just crazy shit and crazy people, but really just I would just say that conveniences are the things that I probably miss the most.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, seeing a bunch of crazy stuff comes with the territory of being in a big metropolitan city, especially when like you were saying, like especially in LA, when I would the one part of LA that I absolutely hate passing through and going through, the jewelry district in downtown, dude. Like, it's just It's really bad. Like it'll be a quick stroll. Other times you'll find yourself with some homeless dude wanting to fight you for no reason. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But you see a ton of wild stuff. And then there's a bunch of like little clubs around there too. So it's people getting into like fights or like people getting tossed out of clubs. It's wild, dude.
I had a whole strategy when I was commuting to work every day just to dress as bummy as possible. I had this really kind of crappy denim jacket I would wear because I found that people would like bother me less. Just don't make eye contact, keep your headphones on, and just dress like crap, and people will leave you alone.
Oh, dude, you wore headphones? That's dangerous because then you don't have somebody sneaks up on you, man.
I don't know. For the most part, I felt pretty safe. There was definitely some points where I felt a little threatened. Like one time I got on the subway in the morning on my way to work, and this guy, I guess I stood too close to him or something, and he called me some homophobic slur and told me he was gonna stab me if I stood any closer to him. And I'm like, damn, dude, it's 8 o'clock, bro. Like, just calm down. I just woke up, man. I don't want to fucking die right as before I'm like awake, you know? That'd be the worst way to go.
After spending a bit of time in New York, Heaven decides to head down to Nashville, Tennessee. Why there? Well, while questing throughout Azeroth on his free time, playing World of Warcraft for those of you who don't know, he spent a lot of time making friendships and joined a guild. During one of his dungeon crawls with a group of guild members, he expressed how he disliked his job to them and wanted to quit. When two of his guildmates heard this, they decided to invite him to come live with them. But shortly after moving to Tennessee, COVID hits, and the world comes to a stop for everyone in 2020. So, having more time to do stuff, he picks up StarCraft 2 again, and eventually streaming. Yeah, so how long have you been doing content creation for, man?
I've been Twitch streaming for like probably 2 years, I want to say at this point. I mean, I used to Twitch stream like maybe like 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. Even I probably was like doing it like right out of high school, you know? But at the time, I was always like, you know, sporadic, scheduled, stream like once every like 2 months or whatever, you know. So like I've had a channel forever basically, and I never really got into it until like 2 years ago, and then I was doing it pretty regularly. I wanted to be a streamer when I was like younger, before I took the break from StarCraft, like during Wings of Liberty. But back then, when I was like 18 or 19, I didn't have a computer that was good enough to stream. Like it just. I had a crap top, you know? So, I mean, I never could really stream then. And then when I got back into StarCraft, like the passion got reignited, I guess. And that's what made me want to start streaming again.
Gotcha. And like, who was your like inspiration back then?
I mean, during Wings of Liberty, I mean, I used to watch like a lot of like of the OG Root guys, like Destiny, Minigun, Cats. I really liked the NA personalities, like In Control was obviously like one of the coolest dudes to ever be. When I like got back into StarCraft, I don't actually really remember who I was watching primarily, because I think at the time I didn't really know the community super well. I was mainly just watching like big streamers like Roddy and Pig.
And like, do you remember the exact moment where you were just like, okay, I need to go get like a face cam or like a webcam or something?
No, I don't think so, because I mean, I had a webcam before I started streaming. So like as soon as I started streaming, I already had one.
Well, I mean, for your stream too, the way you have it set up, it's like, it's a very like professional. Your transition scenes are really awesome. I really like them. That's what stands out to me is your transitions, and then your audio quality, your mic, and just the way your camera looks. I was like, oh, this guy looks like he's been doing it for a while now. So
yeah, the camera I have right now, it's a pretty nice camera. I bought it before I went to Iceland, which was like maybe 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. I remember wanting to buy like a digital camera that would function really well with like low light photography. So I was like super attracted to the like new Sony A7 series at the time. Cause I wanted something that like, even with like limited light exposure when we were, you know, outside at night, that like we'd still be able to pick stuff up pretty easily. So I ended up picking up that camera, and then I found out like literally like a year later that you can use it as a webcam. So like I feel like when you look at my stream versus like other StarCraft streamers, like my face is just like super fucking crisp for some reason, and it's just because I'm using like a really high end camera. But I don't know. I think it's cool that you can convert them to webcams. Like I didn't know that was a thing for a while.
No, man. It really is crisp. I feel like if you touch the screen, you'll feel the facial hair.
Yeah, now they can see me mauled in HD. Great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
And once Heaven was back to his regular streaming schedule, he thought, why not create something fun that not only went with his stream, but was actually one of his favorite animals.
It's not even just a meme for me though, dude. Like I just actually really like gorillas. Like, I mean, it's obviously the meme. Like I'm like when I played WoW, I had a gorilla. My character's name was Jimmy, and I had a gorilla named Russell. So we're Russell Jimmies.
So for real though, like you like that's like your favorite animal, like gorillas?
Yeah. I really like gorillas. I have probably like 12 or 13 gorilla plushies in my apartment. It's kind of crazy because like I thought that like, okay, you know, I'll just tell my friends whenever it's my birthday, hey, don't worry about getting me anything, but if you want, you can get me for the collection. But now it's gotten like I have too many. You know, like, I thought I could just keep collecting them, but it's gotten to the point where I feel like, okay, people are gonna think you're a crazy person if they see how many of these that you have. And that's kind of what like has made me want to do like the like charity streams.
Gotcha.
For the gorillas and whatnot.
I guess what is it about gorillas that you find so fascinating?
Dude, they're so smart. Like I mean, there's probably animals smarter than gorillas, but like it's really interesting when you see like primates and stuff and just how much they're like people. Like I find that to be just so fascinating. And the fact that like there was one that like people would basically sign language to, like, dude, that's so crazy.
And when he began to stream and create content, he wasn't alone. He had a supporter since starting, and which I happened to meet very briefly. So when I was at DreamHack, and like you spotted me and stuff, and we were talking for a bit, there's one point where I was just like, hey, dude, like you should start making TikToks. Like you should actually just post your content on there.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I remember that.
And then your girlfriend was like, yeah, I keep telling him to do that. And what stood out to me was the support from her. Has she always been like that, like with your creative endeavors and stuff?
Yeah, she's amazing. I really appreciate my girlfriend. I mean, she made a lot of the emotes that are on my stream because she's an artist. Even if you're looking at my just Discord right now, my profile picture, there's a bunch of like channel art that she's done for my streams. So she's always been kind of like my number one supporter, which is funny because like she doesn't even really watch StarCraft. Like she'll come to Atlanta, but she'll be like, I don't know what the hell is going on. This doesn't make any sense. But she's starting to gather it a little bit. But the fact that I've had her support with my stream has been just such a blessing, and I really appreciate everything that she's done for me. And I don't mean to humble brag a little bit. I'm gonna just brag. Actually, I don't know. There's nothing humble about this. I think some of my Twitch emotes are the best in the biz, and I think I have her to thank for that. I think the emotes that she made are just actually just so based.
So she supports you in all your creative endeavors in terms of like streaming and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Which is awesome.
Now it's super important to have that, like having somebody that like kind of almost pushes you and supports the things you do and kind of gives you the the positive reinforcement.
Yeah, I mean, there will be days where I'm like, I don't know if I want to stream tonight, and she's like, you should stream tonight because that's what you want to do. So like I just really appreciate her.
They've known each other for a long time up until this point. Prior to having started to stream on a regular basis, he was constantly playing World of Warcraft, where he would eventually run into her.
I believe I met her through her brother. Her brother was a little bit younger than me, and he had an older sister, and we just all played together. So like, I don't know, I was like maybe 14 or 15 years old, maybe a little younger, a little older. I don't know exactly, but I met her a very long time ago. It was around the time Wrath of Lich King was happening. So I guess I was like 14, 15 years old, depending on how far in the patch. And I don't know, we just played together, did like dungeons and stuff, and we just started hanging out, and we were friends online for a very long time, and then just circumstances occurred in our real lives that allowed us to, finally meet. And then we started a relationship shortly after, which was many years down the line. A little bit after COVID is when we started dating. I want to say like maybe 2021. She had just got back from Japan, and I had just moved to Nashville, and my roommates were leaving, and it was just kind of like a circumstantial thing. Like, hey, I'm going to move across the country, and we're going to, make this happen after just being like kind of like a long distance kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Who was the one to bring up like, hey, we should meet up in person?
Well, I mean, we had been talking for a while up until that point, but I think I was really the one that was trying to make it happen because my girlfriend is a bit of a shy person, I guess you could say, where she had, hesitations, just, concerns about like, oh no, what if we don't like each other in person or whatever? I don't want to really, potentially damage our online relationship, but I built her confidence up, and then I went across to see her, and then it turned into a relationship, which was cool.
That's cool, man. Were you like super nervous meeting for the first time?
No, I wasn't, because going into it, like I was expecting her to be the way that she is, that I know her. Because I mean, we had like video chatted many times and talked on the phone for a very long time, this sort of thing. But she was super nervous because that's just how she is.
Did she ever tell you like what was going through her mind when you guys first met? Or
I remember I met her at like a park that was like near where she was living at the time. And I saw her in a distance, and I was probably like 100 feet away from her, like just walking on the other side of the street, probably a little bit further than 100 feet, maybe like 200 feet. And I spotted her, and I started yelling at her from across the street. I'm like, hey, Shelby, what's up? And that was like her first time like seeing me in person, and she's like, man, this guy is an idiot. what is going on? So I think that kind of like broke the ice in a way, and made it a lot less awkward for her by me being the center of attention.
It definitely did, dude. I can only imagine, like, for somebody being like really shy, that's kind of like the ultimate, like, dude, you're putting me on the spot right now.
Yeah.
Evan still streams and continues to have some of the best emotes in the biz. Thank you so much, Evan, for taking the time out of your day to sit down with me and chat to make this month's episode possible. Be sure to check out his stream and the video we talked about in today's episode. They'll be linked in the podcast show notes. Editing, music, and production was done by your host, Christopher Lopez. Outro music by the talented Televangel. Head on over to their Bandcamp or YouTube. You can also find Televangel on Spotify. More details about Televangel in the podcast show notes. Until next time, friends, thank you very much.